How many cooks does it take to feed one woman? For Queen Victoria, over 100. The royal kitchens employed armies of specialized staff, each with specific duties in an elaborate hierarchy. Every meal required coordination between multiple kitchen departments working simultaneously. A single-state dinner might involve 50 people in food preparation alone, not counting the servers, footmen, and support staff who moved food from kitchen to table. The hierarchy was rigid, the standards were exacting, and the pressure was constant. Let's explore how Victorian royal kitchens actually functioned. The master of the household. At the top of the entire operation sat the master of the household, overseeing all domestic arrangements, including the kitchens. This was typically a nobleman who managed the royal household's operations and budget. The master of the household didn't cook or directly supervise cooking. His role was administrative, approving menus, managing budgets, hiring senior staff, and ensuring the household ran smoothly. He answered directly to the Queen on all household matters. Below him sat various department heads, each responsible for specific areas. The kitchen hierarchy was just one part of a massive domestic operation that included hundreds of servants across multiple departments. The position came with substantial salary and prestige. The master of the household was a powerful figure in court, controlling access to resources and making decisions that affected everyone below him. Annual budgets for food and kitchen operations passed through his office. He approved major purchases, authorized expenditures, and received regular reports on kitchen operations and costs. The royal chef. The head chef, often called the royal chef or chef de cuisine, commanded the entire kitchen operation. This position went exclusively to men, typically French, as French cuisine dominated fine dining. The royal chef planned menus, created new dishes, supervised all cooking, trained staff, and maintained kitchen standards. He answered to the master of the household, but ran the kitchens with near absolute authority. The salary was substantial, hundreds of pounds annually, far more than most professionals earned. The prestige was enormous. Being royal chef was the pinnacle of culinary careers. Former royal chefs could command premium positions anywhere in the world. The chef maintained personal relationships with suppliers, ensuring the finest ingredients arrived at the royal kitchens. He inspected deliveries personally, rejecting anything that failed to meet standards. He rarely cooked himself during normal operations. His role was supervisory and creative. He developed new dishes, refined existing recipes, and ensured consistency across all preparations. During major events, he might prepare specific dishes personally as a mark of their importance. The position required diplomatic skills as much as culinary ability. The chef navigated between the master of the household's budget concerns, the Queen's personal preferences, and his staff's capabilities. Managing this balance determined success or failure. Sous chefs and department heads. Below the royal chef were multiple sous chefs, each heading a specific kitchen department. These men supervised day-to-day operations in their areas. The roasting chef managed all roasted meats, beef, poultry, game, and pork. This was a crucial position given the importance of roast meats in Victorian dining. He supervised a team of cooks who prepared, seasoned, and roasted meats to precise specifications. The sauce chef controlled all sauce preparations. Victorian haute cuisine relied heavily on elaborate sauces. This department produced dozens of different sauces, each requiring specific techniques and timing. The sauce chef was typically highly trained and experienced. The pastry chef headed the pastry department, separate from the main kitchen. This department produced breads, cakes, pastries, and elaborate dessert preparations. The pastry chef often had a background in French patisserie and commanded significant respect. The fish chef managed all fish and seafood preparations. Fresh fish arrived daily and required immediate processing and cooking. The fish chef ensured proper handling and preparation of expensive seafood. The soup chef supervised soup production. Victorian meals typically included multiple soup options. The soup chef maintained stocks, prepared consommes and elaborate soups, and ensured consistent quality. Each department head earned good wages, $50 to $100 annually, and had authority to hire, fire, and manage their staff. They reported to the royal chef but ran their departments independently. Specialized cooks. Below the department heads were specialized cooks focusing on specific tasks within each department. Roasting cooks tended the roasting spits and ovens. They monitored temperatures, basted meats, and timed everything precisely. The work was hot, physically demanding, and required constant attention. Sauce cooks prepared the elaborate sauces under the sauce chef's supervision. They reduced stocks, prepared roux, mixed ingredients, and timed everything to coordinate with other dishes. The precision required was extreme. Pastry cooks in the pastry department mixed doughs, shaped breads, assembled cakes, and created elaborate desserts. They worked early morning hours to ensure fresh breads for breakfast and prepared elaborate desserts for dinner. Fish cooks prepared various fish dishes, from simple preparations to elaborate presentations. They received training in fish cleaning, filleting, and multiple cooking techniques specific to seafood. Vegetable cooks prepared the numerous side dishes required for each meal. They cleaned, peeled, chopped, and cooked vegetables according to specific instructions. The volume of vegetable preparation was enormous. These specialized cooks earned $30 to $50 annually, depending on skill and experience. They were skilled workers who had completed apprenticeships and demonstrated competence. If you're still here after learning about Royal Kitchen organization, subscribe for more behind-the-scenes historical details. Kitchen maids. Kitchen maids formed the foundation of the entire operation. These young women handled the basic tasks that kept kitchens functioning. Scullery maids occupied the lowest position. They scrubbed pots, cleaned floors, washed vegetables, and performed the dirtiest kitchen work. They started as young as 12 or 13, earning perhaps $8 to $12 annually, plus room and board. The work was brutal. Scullery maids stood for 12 to 16 hours daily, hands constantly in water, scrubbing pots with harsh soap and sand. The water was often cold, the work area unheated, and the supervision strict. Kitchen maids above scullery maids assisted cooks with food preparation. They chopped vegetables, plucked poultry, cleaned fish, and performed repetitive tasks under supervision. They earned slightly more, $12 to $20 annually, and had marginally better working conditions. Advancement was possible. A hard-working scullery maid might become a kitchen maid after several years. A capable kitchen maid might eventually train as a specialized cook. The path was long and uncertain, but it existed. The turnover was high. Young women left for marriage, were dismissed for mistakes, or simply couldn't handle the physical demands. The royal household constantly recruited new kitchen maids to replace those who departed. Support staff. Beyond the cooking staff, numerous support positions kept the kitchens operational. The clerk of the kitchen managed supplies, maintained inventories, and tracked expenditures. He ordered ingredients, paid suppliers, and kept detailed account books. This administrative position required literacy and numeracy, rare skills that commanded respect. Storekeepers managed the various storage rooms. Dry goods stores, wine cellars, ice houses, and cold storage all had dedicated keepers responsible for maintaining inventories and preventing waste or theft. Kitchen porters hauled supplies, moved heavy equipment, and handled physically demanding tasks. They carried coal for cooking fires, moved large pots, delivered ingredients from storage to kitchens, and cleaned heavy equipment. Lampmen maintained the extensive lighting required in windowless kitchen areas. They filled, cleaned, and lit oil lamps throughout the kitchen complex. These support staff earned modest wages, $20 to $40 annually, but their roles were essential. Without proper supply management and support, the cooking staff couldn't function effectively. The pastry department. The pastry department operated semi-independently from the main kitchens. This separation reflected the specialized nature of pastry work and the different schedules required. The pastry chef commanded a team of pastry cooks, assistants, and specialized workers. They produced all breads, cakes, pastries, and elaborate sugarwork for the royal household. Work began early, often 3 or 4 a.m., to ensure fresh breads for breakfast. The ovens required heating, doughs needed mixing and rising, and everything had to be baked and ready by breakfast service. Elaborate desserts for evening meals were prepared throughout the day. Victorian desserts required hours of work, layered cakes, intricate pastries, sugar sculptures, and moulded confections. The pastry department worked constantly to meet demands. The department had its own ovens, work surfaces, and equipment. Pastry preparation required cooler temperatures than main cooking, necessitating separate facilities. The pastry department was typically located in a different area from the main kitchens. Pastry staff tended to stay longer in their positions compared to general kitchen staff. The specialized skills required meant experienced pastry cooks were valuable. The pastry chef often served for decades, maintaining consistency in breads and desserts. The still room. The still room was another specialized department, traditionally headed by women. This department prepared preserves, candies, distilled waters, and various specialty items. The still room maid held a senior position, supervising other maids in producing jams, jellies, candied fruits, and preserved items. She also managed tea preparation, ensuring proper water temperature and steeping times. The still room produced items requiring delicate handling and precise timing. Preserving seasonal fruits, making marmalades, candying peels, and preparing medicinal teas all fell under still room jurisdiction. This department operated somewhat independently, having its own space and equipment. The still room was typically quieter and cooler than the main kitchens, suitable for the delicate work performed there. The still room maid earned $30 to $50 annually, good wages for a female servant position. Her literacy was required for following recipes and maintaining records of production. The daily schedule. Royal kitchens operated around the clock, with different staff working different shifts to maintain continuous operations. Morning began at 3 a.m. when pastry staff arrived to begin bread production. By 5 a.m., kitchen fires were lit and breakfast preparations began. Breakfast service started around 9 a.m., but preparations needed to be complete well before. Mid-morning, after breakfast service, focused on preparation for luncheon. Stocks were made, vegetables were prepared, and initial work on luncheon dishes began. Luncheon service started at 2 p.m. Afternoon preparations for dinner dominated the schedule. Dinner was the main meal and required the most elaborate preparations. Multiple courses needed coordination across departments. Dinner service began at 8:30 p.m. Late evening, after dinner service, clean-up dominated. Pots were scrubbed, surfaces were cleaned, equipment was put away. The clean-up from a major dinner could take several hours. Throughout the day, staff took brief breaks for their own meals, eaten in servants' dining areas. The meals were simpler than those prepared for the royal family, but substantial enough to fuel the hard labor. Night staff maintained fires, ensured security, and handled any late requests. The kitchens were never truly empty or inactive. Training and advancement. Kitchen staff advanced through a rigid apprenticeship system. Young workers started in the lowest positions and worked up through demonstrated competence. A scullery maid showing aptitude might be promoted to kitchen maid after a year or two. Kitchen maids who learned quickly might assist specialized cooks, gradually taking on more responsibility. Male kitchen staff had clearer advancement paths. A young man entering as a kitchen porter or assistant cook could eventually become a specialized cook, then potentially a sous chef. French training was highly valued. Cooks who had worked in French kitchens or trained under French chefs were preferred for advancement. The royal chef was almost always French. Reading and writing skills helped advancement. Cooks who could read recipes, write reports, and maintain records had advantages over illiterate colleagues. The ultimate goal for ambitious cooks was becoming head chef at a noble household or opening their own establishment. Royal kitchen experience was the finest credential available. Discipline and standards. The kitchen hierarchy maintained order through strict discipline and exacting standards. Mistakes had consequences. The royal chef had authority to dismiss staff immediately for serious infractions. Drunkenness, theft, or gross incompetence resulted in instant dismissal without references, devastating for future employment. Lesser infractions brought reprimands, wage deductions, or temporary demotions. A cook who ruined an expensive dish might lose a week's wages. A maid who broke valuable equipment might be demoted to scullery work temporarily. Standards were absolute. Food had to be perfect. Proper temperature, correct seasoning, attractive presentation. The pressure to maintain perfection was constant and intense. The hierarchy itself maintained discipline. Each level supervised the one below, ensuring consistent standards throughout. Junior staff knew senior staff watched constantly. Physical exhaustion was expected. Staff worked until the work was done, regardless of hours. During major events, kitchen staff might work 20-hour days for extended periods. Living conditions. Kitchen staff lived in the royal residences where they worked. Living conditions varied dramatically by position in the hierarchy. Senior staff, the royal chef, sous-chefs, and department heads had individual rooms, relatively comfortable by servant standards. These rooms were small but private, a significant privilege. Specialized cooks typically shared rooms with one or two others. The accommodations were basic but adequate. Kitchen maids and lower staff slept in dormitory-style rooms, often sharing beds. Privacy was non-existent. The rooms were cold in winter, hot in summer, and always crowded. All staff ate in servants' dining areas, with meals provided as part of compensation. The food was good by working-class standards, but far simpler than what they prepared for the royal family. Days off were rare. Junior staff might get one afternoon off per month. Senior staff had slightly more freedom, but were essentially on call constantly. The living situation created a self-contained community. Kitchen staff socialized primarily with other servants, forming relationships within the strict hierarchy. The scale of operations. The sheer scale of royal kitchen operations is difficult to comprehend by modern standards. Over 100 people worked in and around the kitchens at major royal residences. Windsor Castle's kitchen complex employed the most, but Buckingham Palace, Balmoral, and other residences all had substantial kitchen staffs. Daily food preparation required processing enormous quantities. A single day might involve butchering multiple animals, preparing hundreds of pounds of vegetables, and baking dozens of loaves of bread. The facilities themselves were massive. The kitchen complex at Windsor Castle occupied thousands of square feet across multiple rooms and levels. Separate areas for roasting, baking, pastry, fish, vegetables, washing, and storage spread across the palace basement. Equipment represented capital investment equivalent to a small factory. Multiple cooking ranges, roasting spits, specialized ovens, countless pots and pans, and elaborate serving pieces. The coordination required to operate this system was extraordinary. Timing had to be precise across multiple departments. Communication flowed through the hierarchy, with senior staff coordinating to ensure everything arrived at the correct moment. Closing, the Victorian royal kitchens operated like military organizations, with rigid hierarchies, specialized roles, and exacting standards. Over 100 people worked in coordinated precision to feed one woman and her household. The system seems absurd by modern standards, but it reflected Victorian society. Which kitchen position would you least want to have? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this look behind the scenes of royal kitchens, subscribe for more stories about how Victorian households really functioned. Thanks for watching.